वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So by the final day of our reflection of Saddarśana, one idea comes to mind now. We've talked at length so much about what this process is, where all roads of inquiry lead to that substratum. We've talked about what role sadhana plays in this endeavor. We've talked about the idea of Bhagavan, what the true concept of Bhagavan is, what the true lakshanas are, how that plays a role in this process as well. Now the only question that remains is, what happens to that person that actually successfully goes through this process? Because when it comes to any process that I'm going to take up faithfully, unless I see success stories in front of me, I'm not going to do it at all. And I can't lose sight of what the problem I have is and how I reach that success. There's a person that wanted to sell their car. They had 200,000 miles on it. That was the problem. No one wants to buy a car with that many miles on it. So someone showed them a trick. They said you can go in, turn the dial, the needle, and you can bring the number down. The car will have that many miles, but it won't look like that. So they brought it down to about 20,000 miles. So now you can sell it. The person looked at it and said, why would I want to sell it now? There's only 20,000 miles on it. Completely lost. So like that, in this process, as I'm trying to understand what that Saddarśana is, on the way, I can never stop and think that mind is clear now, mind is more focused, I want to stop here. Or that, this process seems like such hard work. I've done enough. Enough people are praising me for how far I've gone here. Let me stop now. It doesn't work that way. So today, we will go through the remaining shlokas that we have. And there's an interesting framework we can look at to have this all tie together now. So 32nd shloka, the question that arises here is, what happens when this ego falls? We've been talking about killing this ego this entire time, 4 days of that. What finally happens upon that ego falling? Gavishanat prapya hridantaram tat Gavishanat prapya hridantaram tat pati dahanta paribhukna shirsha pati dahanta paribhukna shirsha athahamanyat spurati prakrishtam athahamanyat spurati prakrishtam Naham kritistat parameva purnam Naham kritistat parameva purnam. What finally falls? That aham vritti, that I notion. Meaning there's one more I that takes its place still. It's not that it stops indefinitely and there's some void later on. Now, in our scriptures, there are several examples. Stories that really help us understand a sadhaka's path. Now there's one story we'll go into today that sets us up with a framework where every subsequent shloka can tie into the story in some way. You may know the story. The story of the 10th man is what it is. So there was one guru who had 10 students. Good thing was guru was very compassionate. Bad thing was these students were just stupid, is what they were. Not the brightest bulbs in the box, not the brightest crayons in the box, sharpest crayons in the box, however you want to put it. They were very well-intentioned to serve, they were eager, they were kind, but in the intellectual department, they were not blessed. Not blessed at all. So one day they said, we've studied a lot, there's a carnival in town, and they asked the guru, can we go to that carnival? He said, okay, but there's one condition. You guys aren't really the smartest bunch of boys. So when you're at that carnival, and on the way there and on the way back, every now and then, make sure you count that, make sure all of you are there, and then we'll move forward. I don't want anyone getting lost in this process. So I said, okay. 10 of them are going. Then they come to a river, and the carnival's right on the other side. So either they have to walk another mile this way, cross a bridge, another mile this way to the carnival, or they can swim right across. You know, where I come from in Texas, we have the highway, we have exits, and then you can see the stores right there. Wherever you want to go, it's right by the highway. The more north you go, then it's just trees, different things like that. You can't see what's there. So if you take the wrong exit, then there's no way to know where you even are without a GPS. So like that, these boys, they were afraid that if they go this way, go on the bridge, they may not get to the carnival. Let's just jump in the water, swim across, and we can go. So they all eagerly jump in the water, swim, 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 then they get out. Then one self-proclaimed leader out of all of them says, whoa, Guruji said, let's count how many of us there are. So he lined up the boys, and he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I said, oh my goodness, one of us is missing. And another boy was impatient. He said, you're dumb, you never knew how to count anyway, let me come and count. You stand over there now. He made him stand, and now he counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same conclusion. Now the funny part is, if you were to ask them who is missing, the name of the person who's missing, they couldn't tell you. They were all there, they just weren't counting themselves. So then they started crying once they figured this out, that one of us is missing. They said, one of us is drowned in that river, he's gone, how do we tell their parents, what's going to happen? They're completely shattered. Now they're beating their heads, they're just on the ground wailing, so sad that they lost one of their classmates, feeling terrible. Now, in a distance, under a tree, there's a man who's just resting there. He's watching this whole drama and laughing to himself, saying, wow, I've met some stupid people in my life. These people are Mahatmas in that department. I've never met someone this dumb before. And that to a group. Like there's some, people that are not very smart, but there's other people in a group that make up for it and they help them out. Here, all 10 of them, that's a very special thing to find. With 10 people that are just like that. So then that man went up to these boys and he said, look, stop crying. The 10th one is alive, is what he said. The 10th one is alive. He kept repeating that to them. Then at a certain point they thought, okay, they still weren't convinced. They didn't know they were the 10th. But the tears at least stopped. Because someone wise looking is coming and saying this to them so adamantly, there must be some truth to this. So I said, okay, the 10th man must be alive. Then he said, he brought up one of the boys, and he said, count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the old man made him turn his finger toward himself and say, 10. You are the 10th person. When that knowledge finally came in, all sorrow stopped. They started laughing at each other. Each other, not even themselves. Saying, haha, you thought someone was gone. You couldn't count right. None of them could count right. But the joy was there at that moment. And then finally, total satisfaction. They knew they were the 10th. They never made this mistake again. They went to the carnival, enjoyed, went back to their ashram, safe and sound. Now, this sounds like just some story that's humorous. But there is so much depth to this story about the stages that a sadhaka goes through. What are they? That first stage was where I do not see that 10th person. There's that stage. Stage number 1, I don't see that 10th person. Stage number 2, the conclusion that comes from not seeing that person is the 10th man is not here. I don't see the 10th person, then the 10th person is not here. Then on top of that, one more conclusion, the 10th one must have drowned. I don't see him, therefore he's not here. Therefore, he must have drowned, and then there's that sorrow. Now, the fourth step is when that old man comes and says the 10th man is alive, that knowledge that the 10th man is alive, that's sinking in, that's step number 4. Step number 5 is then what? I am the 10th person. Step number 6 is where there is no more sorrow at this point, because the understanding is there, intimately known, so there's no more sorrow. Final step number 7 is that joy, that we're so happy right now. 7 steps. Now, what does this mean for me as a sadhaka? First step here is ajnana, ignorance. How does this come about in the world? When I'm so engrossed in worldly affairs, this samsara that I'm deeply in, where I don't even have questions about something higher. That never comes up. Completely ignorant. Not even fighting against what religion says. There's no scope for that, because that's how, like a horse when it races, they put the blinders on. That's how my blinders are for working in the world. I don't see anything but this reality that I think is so real in front of me. Ignorance, ajnana, is that first stage. Second stage, where it goes from I do not see the 10th one to the 10th man is not here. That veiling is called avarana. That's that stage where I may say I'm atheist or agnostic. That the conclusion brought from this steep view in this worldly life is there is no God, there is no seeking, there is nothing higher, or there may be something higher, but I don't know what that is. Who knows what that is? None of us actually see it, therefore it does not matter. That's the attitude. Third stage is what in the story? 10th person drowned is that third stage. Here, that is vikshepa. On top of that avarana, what we said yesterday, superimposition is what? Like seeing that shell but thinking it's silver, throwing reality onto something that's not really there. Like that, I say I am a finite jiva, I am a doer, I am an experiencer, I am an enjoyer, I'm going through all of this every single day, I'm facing all these karma padas, I'm suffering, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm thin, I'm fat, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm dark, I'm fair. All of these are included in that superimposition. Every single thing that I'm not, I own up as this is me, this is me. That I goes wrong at this stage completely. Then that fourth stage was when things started to get better. That old man wisely told them, the 10th person is alive, do not fear. 10th person is alive. This is indirect knowledge. Paroksha jnana is what that's called. Where the substratum exists. There is an existence principle. There is a consciousness principle. There is that bliss. The substratum is that Brahman. There is something like that. Finally, I come to that understanding. But is that enough for this growth? Next stage is the real kicker, where they saw I am the 10th person. This is aparoksha jnana, where I am that changeless self. I've read so much about it, I've heard so much about it, as this self is like this, it's like that. It's not just talking about some other thing. I am that self. At this point, the 6th stage, no more sorrow. Shoka apagama, where all false notions that I've had that creates this sorrow is gone. Therefore, the sorrow stops as well. And then finally, that last stage, total satisfaction, tripti, where the boys were joyously saying, yes, oh, we're so happy now. I have done everything that needs to be done. This knowledge I have received, forget not wanting to be karta. I know I'm not that at all. There's nothing else to be done. Nirankusha tripti, total, complete, unmitigated bliss. Ignorance has no chance of coming back. So this story details the entire sadhaka's journey from beginning to end. Where am I in this journey? I can pinpoint for myself. Everyone can pinpoint for themselves where they are in this journey. Now, what does that have to do with today's shlokas then? 32nd shloka, what do we see here? That I notion, when it falls, the other I, the real I of my identity, shines forth at that moment. Because now at this point, when I'm free of this erroneous idea that I am the doer, enjoyer of these fruits of actions, that I falls at that point. Now there is no void. It's not that there's a nothingness. The real I shines at that point. I see myself for what I truly am. And I see that there's this enjoyable world out there that I can go and partake in, but the reality I give that world ceases to exist. That is that aparoksha jnana, step number 5 that we see. Now the next question that arises for us is, we are bound by duty, we are bound by obligation. This bondage has restrained us this entire time. Upon realization, please tell me that goes away at least. So let's see if it does. 33rd shloka. Aham kritim yo lasati grasitva. Aham kritim yo lasati grasitva. Kim tasya karyam parishishtamasti. Kim tasya karyam parishishtamasti. Kinchit vijanati sanatmanonyat. Kinchit vijanati sanatmanonyat. Tasya sthitim bhavaitum kshamakah. Tasya sthitim bhavaitum kshamakah. Aham kritim yo lasati grasitva. Grasitva, having devoured. Like we saw, Bhagavan becomes that bhokta. Bhogya, what is to be enjoyed, is my ahankara, offered at that Bhagavan's feet for that devouring. So when this ego has been completely devoured, what's left? What else is there to give me any kind of bondage? What's left in the rest of this lifetime that this person must live as this jiva after that realization? What kind of prarabdha comes to them? Again, prarabdha is those results of actions done previously that must come to me in this lifetime. As this janma, those results have to come to me. For a realized person now, there's no more desire. So any action that is done is not born from their own personal desire, yet action is still done. It has to come from somewhere then. The answer is it comes from that prarabdha. How so? 3 types of prarabdha we can look at here. One is called ichcha prarabdha. Ichcha prarabdha is those results that are created in the mind, some desire, and I engage in doing that. You and I, all of our prarabdha that comes to us is a result of that ichcha prarabdha. Because we have a desire in the mind, it percolates, then that goes down to actions. I perform those actions. Prarabdha comes as a result of it, very basically put. But for this wise one, there are 2 more types. Anicca prarabdha. Anicca prarabdha, or those enjoyments which come without a conscious desire in the mind. It's not that they want something to happen. There's no insistence on it. If some things just happen, they happen, whatever it is. There's a friend who, he was in a different city. He was walking in downtown. He walked by the basketball stadium there. And one man heard he was running out somewhere, and he had a ticket with him. He said, hey, take this ticket. You can go watch the game. I said, okay, how much do I owe you? He said, just go enjoy it. I have some errand I have to run, something came up. Just take it and go. I don't care about you paying for it. I said, okay. So when you go into these arenas, you give those ushers the ticket, then they guide you where your seat is. So he shows the ticket. They're going lower, 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 even closer to the action. Before he knew it, he was like 5 rows back, and he just watched the whole game. Then he was thinking, halfway through walking there, he got scared. Is this an ugly ticket or something? Am I going to be in some deep trouble because of this? It was real, he enjoyed the game. So like that, for that wise person, it's not something trivial like going to a game, but these kinds of joys just randomly arise like that in their prarabdha. And there they don't go and analyze and say, why is this happening to me? Can I have more of this? There's no desire arising from it. Some things just happen like that. Anicca prarabdha, even without that desire, things happen. Then panicca prarabdha, the third one. These are the results that come because of the desires of others. Even that jnani then, at this point, is still at the behest of the desires of others. When Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji, there's a misconception that he started Chinmaya Mission. And people often say, oh, he named the organization after himself, Chinmaya Mission. That's not true. The truth is, he just wanted to come down and teach this knowledge from the Himalayas. And whichever city would invite him, he'd go, he'd speak, he'd move forward. That was his only intention. Can't even call that desire. That was what he saw as what should be done. The people need this knowledge. Then a group of people came together. They said, Swamiji, it's not just enough that you're going from city to city. We need some apparatus, some kind of organizational structure so that there are Balabihars running and Devi groups running when you're not there, so that there's some order and discipline. We need some structure. He said, no, absolutely not. I do not want that. That's another bondage. I got into this path to get rid of all this bondage. This is one more bondage you're putting on me. They said, no, Swamiji, we need it. I said, okay, have an organization. And they said, we'll name it Chinmaya Mission. He said, no, absolutely not. This thing will not be named after me. You're not going to do that. Then they said, no, it's not named after you. Chinmaya means that pure consciousness. Our mission is to know that pure consciousness as ourselves. That's why we'll call it Chinmaya Mission. He said, okay, I don't like this idea, but if that's what you want to do, whatever, go and do it. And like that, Chinmaya Mission was born. Not from his own desire, but panicca prarabdha, from the desire of others. So much so it came to a point where there were some financial struggles in Chinmaya Mission. There was a point decades later where they thought, should we dissolve the mission or something? And so they asked him, you put so much work into this, how would you feel if the mission were dissolved? He said, I'll stand by and I'll clap as it falls. Meaning no attachment to the organization whatsoever. He knew what his purpose was when he came down to teach. It was immaterial to him, whether there's an organization, what they do, what kind of structure there is. He was very clear about what he thought he should do and the way he should do it. That's the Jnani's point of view then. Now the next question that arises is, you've been held hostage for 4 days right here. So this truth is told by so many like this in so many different ways. Why can my mind still not abide in this then? I forget how many Chaitanya I've heard lectures from Pujya Gurudev, it still doesn't stick. What's the reason why? There's got to be some reason. That brings us to shloka number 34. Ahasputam tat tvamasi vedaha. Ahasputam tat tvamasi vedaha. Tathapya samprapya paratmanishtham. Tathapya samprapya paratmanishtham. Bhuyo vicharo mati durbalatvam. Bhuyo vicharo mati durbalatvam. Tatsarvada svatmataya hi bhati. Tatsarvada svatmataya hi bhati. Bhuyaha vicharaha. Inquire again. That is what the advice given is. If this mind is to be fortified, keep inquiring more and more. Flex that intellectual muscle. More importantly though, what's given in the beginning of the shloka is, the Veda clearly says, Tat Tvam Asi. That's what's called a Mahavakya. Mahavakya is any Vedic statement that indicates my infinitude. Jivoham, Jivaha Aham. I keep saying that. I'm a Jiva, I'm a Jiva. The Veda tells me I'm much more than that. So Tattvamasi is one of those Mahavakyas. Now, popularly, people say there are only 4 Mahavakyas. There are 4 major Mahavakyas. But any Vedic statement indicating what my true nature is a Mahavakya. And rumination, understanding doubtlessly of these Mahavakyas brings me to this realization. Now, 3 simple words, but oh, they could not be more complicated. Tat Tvam Asi. Tat meaning that, represented by Ishvara, Bhagavan. That which is this entire creation, that's what we're representing that. Tvam, when the Guru gives that Upadesha, Tvam, that means you, meaning you and me, as the Jivas. Tvam meaning this assemblage right here. Asi meaning one and only. What the confusion is, generally speaking, how can that Ishvara and this entire cosmos be one and only in Tvam? How can they be equated like that? This means conditionings have to be taken away. The Maya Ubadhi, meaning the conditioning given by that misunderstood power of Maya, that leads to me seeing this entire creation. That leads to me thinking that I am this finite individual here. And we went through this during the week. Once those conditionings, one by one, are stripped away from my personality, then I see myself as nothing but that truth. That one truth, indivisible, without any adulteration, without a second. That is the Advaitic view. Now, because there are different interpretations of the Mahavakya of Tat Tvam Asi, that's why we see so many different darshanas, or schools of thought. Each which has an intellectual muscle and lots of evidence that they provide, but at the end of the day, Tat Tvam Asi, given in the Advaitic sense, is the only truth. Logically, there's no other way to see it. Why do we say that so clearly? Because the wording is the way it is in Veda. We said at the beginning of the week, when it comes to this highest knowledge, Pratyaksha Pramana, meaning knowledge coming from perception, does not apply as a valid means. Anumana Pramana, knowledge coming from inferential knowledge, does not apply to this highest knowledge. Shabda Pramana, words of the scripture, that is all that applies. So if that's the case, the words in their true meaning, it's very important to dissect them very clearly, knowing what each and every word means. Now we say Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, and stripping away all of the conditionings, we see it as the one and only. Now for any other sampradaya saying that Tat Tvam Asi means something different, we'll go through and see why that's wrong, in a nutshell here. One school of thought is, I am like that Bhagavan. Man is made in the image of God. We see that as an Abrahamic concept. But I'm divine and capable just like him, but there's no one and only. There still is that Bheda, that difference. If that were the case, that I am like that Bhagavan, statement grammatically would be, Tat Iva Tvam Asi. Iva means I'm like that. That would be the statement. Instead, it's Tat Tvam Asi. Now another viewpoint. I am for that Bhagavan. I offer all my actions to him, dedicate my life to serving him. That's also in our Sampradaya, but the culmination is not that. That's not the ending point. If that were the case, the wording would be, Tasmai Tat Tvam Asi would be the wording there. Unto that Bhagavan I serve. That's not what's given. There's one more view. This Bhagavan is the originator of everything. I am from that Bhagavan. I am born from that Bhagavan, sustained by him. I will merge back into him. Essentially, Bhagavan is the cause, I am the effect. Now, we dissected cause and effect on the very second day. We saw that cause and effect essentially is an illusion. It's not that the effect is something different from the cause. So that argument falls apart. And besides, if this were the truth, not Tat Tvam Asi, it would be Tasmat Tvam Asi. From that Bhagavan, I am. That's not what's given. That's another 2 arguments we can see. One is, I am his and he is mine. Hum dono do premi dunya chhod chale. That's what comes to mind when I see that. I am his, he is mine. If that were the case, then, that he loves you as his own, and I am also special to him, if that were the case, the words would be tasya tvamasi, not tatvamasi. And the final one is, you are in him, and he is in you. Like a wave in the ocean, I'm a part of him. I'm like a wave that he is the giant ocean, and he is a part of me. He is the infinite whole, I am one amsha, one little part in him. If that were the case, the wording would be tasmin tvamasi. Now, why did I go through this whole layer right here? For the simple fact that when it comes to understanding what Shastra says, words are all we have to go by, therefore that must be interpreted properly. And only in this Advaitic Sampradaya do we have that words, looking at them at face value, we understand what they mean. What do I mean by that? There's one school of thought where they say that it's actually not tatvamasi. There's an error in the writing and the retention of it. It's atatvamasi is the actual phrase. And using that, they substantiate their whole line of thinking. In Advaita, we don't do faluda of scriptures to make sure that we have the right understanding. We leave the scriptures as they are, we take the understanding from that. That's the one big difference here. And we'll see that going forward today as well. One more question comes up. Is it that either I know this truth or don't know this truth? Or is there some halfway point? You know, I know some of it, 50% I know, 75% I know. Does it work like that? Let's see. Shloka number 35. Navedmyaham mam utavedmyaham mam Navedmyaham mam utavedmyaham mam Iti pravado manujasya hasyaha Iti pravado manujasya hasyaha Drishya bhedat kimayam dvidhatma Drishya bhedat kimayam dvidhatma Swatmaikatayam hidhiyam na bhedah Swatmaikatayam hidhiyam na bhedah Navedmyaham mam or vedmyaham mam, either one. I don't know myself or I know myself. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi just laughs at these two statements. And that there's nothing in between here either. Liberation is a zero-sum endeavor. That's where either you got it or you don't. Right? It's like when you're watching cricket right now, World Cup is going on. Let's use that example. When it comes to a catch, if you catch it in the air before the ball falls, the guy's out. There's no such case where the guy who's trying to catch it kind of juggles it a bit, gets it a little bit, grabs it on his chest like this, and then it slips out. It's still not an out at that point. You don't get points saying that, oh, because he juggled it this much, this long he had it in his hand before it fell, therefore it's still a catch. It does not work. Either he caught it or he didn't. This knowledge is the same way. Either I've caught it or I haven't. It's not that I made this much progress, so I'm this far realized, there's only a little bit more to go. It does not work that way. Either I have it or I don't. Why is that important to see? Because it determines where do I stop in this whole process. Do I still have desires that are egocentric? That means I haven't got this knowledge. Because anytime we're given a sadhana or a task, the first thing I want to know is, how long do I have to keep doing this? When can I stop? Now that question will come later on today, but as a preemptive measure to stop that question from coming, the idea is either I am realized or I am not. There is no in between. And again, there are no physical markings to show whether I am realized or not. It's not that this person's conduct is this way, therefore he's realized. This person behaves differently, therefore they're not realized. It doesn't work that way. There's one great sadhu sannyasi, he lived about 100 years ago. He didn't live in an ashram or anything, just a simple hut. If he saw he had like an apple tree in his front yard, if anyone was trying to come get darshan from him, he'd throw these apples at them, like chunking an apple. Like, if you get hit really hard with the fruit, like an apple, it hurts pretty bad, right? So he would sit there and just toss it and throw it at people, saying, "I don't want to see anyone." Now, people would say he's a madman, he's insane. He was a great jnani. Outer behavior and what they do, it's not truly indicative of someone's level of knowledge. That's true for many qualities. Imagine one of you is a billionaire. Any billionaires here? Some of you may be, some, I hope so. When you become a billionaire, man, all the things, projects we have, remember who we are, no? I have no doubt one of our Bhagavan kids will be the next Bezos, or even better. But no billionaires here, that's good for this example then. What if I were to say there is a billionaire among you? Smaller center like this, you all know each other. The larger places, people don't know each other. They look around when I say this. There may be someone. What would the markers be to know that someone's a billionaire? What would you look for? What kind of car they rolled up in, right? How they dress as well, right? I saw online when I was shopping for something I needed. Socks selling for $700. I didn't buy them, don't worry. Had someone else buy them for me. No, I'm kidding. $700 socks, what the heck, man? They must be, I don't know, amazing, I guess. So, expensive clothing. People can have that. What else would you look for? The way you talk to people would also be a marker with me. And some of them just walk right past people. Say, "How do you doing?" I'd say, "How do you doing?" And they just walk right past me, probably. Some markers like this. So we can ascertain someone's wealth level based on some behavioral traits, but more often based on their external persona. Liberation in having this knowledge is not like that at all. There are no external traits I can look at to say readily, "Oh, this person is realized." Now, when someone has great knowledge and they have a very sattvic mind, would their personality be beautified and very pleasant to be around? Yes, that can certainly be there. Even that is not an indication of knowledge, though. So that's important to know so that when I try to emulate, we saw that yesterday, like a prince emulating a king to see how to behave. Like that, when I try to emulate those that are great, what are those factors I'm looking at to emulate them? Is it merely external markings, or is it that beauty of personality? All the while understanding, knowledge still doesn't have anything to do with either of them. It's much deeper than that. Now, after understanding there are no divisions in the self, one more question is, say that I intellectually understand this knowledge. I just can't abide it. I get it intellectually. I am the self. There is no way I can be this body or this mind or this intellect. There is no way I can be the enjoyer. I understand this very clearly. I've sparsed through all the words. I've studied different Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita I've gone through, swallowed all these whole, crammed in my head, but I still don't know, I don't feel it. Still cannot feel it. What do I do? It's a valid question. Next shloka then, 36th shloka. Kritprapya saddhama nijasvarupe Kritprapya saddhama nijasvarupe Svabhava siddhe nupalabhya nishtham Svabhava siddhe nupalabhya nishtham Maya vilasa sadasat sarupa Maya vilasa sadasat sarupa Virupananaika mukha pravadaha Virupananaika mukha pravadaha. One hilarious word that comes here is Sadasat sarupa virupa nana eka mukha pravadaha. Mukha pravadaha means loud talks. We all want to show how much we know on anything. The worst feeling in the world is when you're at a party or some gathering, everyone's discussing something, a group of people around you, you have nothing meaningful to add there, right? Terrible situation. So we say something that may fit, and we see how people react then. Several years ago, I was with some Chinmaya Mission members, Yuva Kendra members. They'd recently gone on a Bharat Yatra. Not Jodo Yatra, just Bharat Yatra, General Yatra. So they were talking about all the places they went, what else they want to see. They said we also want to see Charadham at some point, Siddhavati at some point, all of this. They're all saying this, different places they want to see. Back then I had no knowledge of these Punyakshetras and Tirthas and everything. I didn't know anything. So 3 of them are talking and they look at me at one point, expecting me to say something. I couldn't admit that I don't know anything. That's not good to do. So the first thing that came to my mind, I said, ever since I saw Dil Chahta Hai, I wanted to go up ever since then. That's all I could think of. I couldn't think of anything intelligent in terms of Tirtha Yatras and stuff. That's all I said. They were too polite to laugh at me. They just kind of looked at me like, okay. And they went back to their conversation. Better I should have kept my mouth shut then. I would have saved some face instead. I just said, I want to go see Goa because I saw it in a movie. Now it's the same thing here when it comes to the spiritual knowledge. Whether I know or I don't know, I want to say something. And Bhagavan ridicules this loud talk, saying that for those who really know, they won't make a big deal and talk about it. It's only those of us who don't know that keep talking at length and length about it, showing how much we know. What does he mean by that? Where it's given in the scripture that how does this person feel upon realization? In the example we saw, there's that jubilation by the boys. That, oh, we finally feel. Is it like that? The day I get realized, which hopefully November 18th, 2023, 4 a.m. is the day realization hit me, and then I felt so happy that day. Like in the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone runs up the steps, and then in Philadelphia he goes like this, like the statue. Is that how I feel? Could be. But Chakra says something different. It says that even that feeling of jubilation would be an egocentric feeling, wouldn't it? That I did this, look how great I am. That's not what this is, though. If anything, the person would laugh at themselves, as the boys did, laughing at themselves, saying, oh, how could we be so ignorant? And then they move on in that bliss. That's the jubilation and joy that's there. Not some feeling of, I achieved this, I'm so great. That's ego again. That does not compute with this whole process that we've gone through. And the most beautiful examples are given in this. Imagine one example that's clearly given in Shastra. I'm sanitizing it a bit for the public consumption here. But imagine there's someone who's like a model or someone who they have their photographed often. If they had some blemish, some kind of injury or something that looks very obvious, when the pictures and everything is going on, they try to cover it up, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want that being seen by everyone. Like that, this person who has realized the truth, they don't make some big show of it. It's not that they want to show everyone, look how realized I've become, look what progress I've made. If anything, it's the shame of this whole time it took me this long to get this realization. I wish it hadn't taken so long then. It's more of that kind of a feeling. Where every birthday, I see the candles and I blow them out, more candles every single year, until you hit like, what, 30, and you stop wanting all those candles that people can see. You don't even want a number there. We lie about our age. I'm turning 40. For the 10th time probably, but we still say I'm turning 40. Right? Yes. So, every birthday, is it that I'm happy with all the gifts I'm getting, or do I have sadness? Thinking that one more year has gone by without me realizing this truth, when will this realization come? What is my mind geared towards when I look at happiness and sadness? That's the true feeling. Where after intellectually understanding this knowledge, I can't be content there. Let me dive into that well, like we saw yesterday, deeper and deeper, repeatedly, so that I own up this knowledge as my true nature. Until that point, I don't rest. Now, there seems to be one tangent question that comes up now. Often it comes up. That our markers for realization or greatness on the spiritual path is things like, oh, they materialize rings and they materialize necklaces. They can see into the future. Looking at your face, they can tell what problems you have. Giving you a hug, they can instantly transfer energy to you that improves you. All of these things we hear. Is that realization? Let's find out. 37th shloka. Siddhasya vrittis sata eva siddhihi. Siddhasya vrittis sata eva siddhihi. Swapnopamana khadu siddhayonyah. Swapnopamana khadu siddhayonyah. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. Swapnah prabuddhasya katham nu satyah. Sati sthita kim punareti mayam. Sati sthita kim punareti mayam. When it comes to ardent sadhana and that devotion to Bhagavan, there will be some strengths that are cultivated. If we look back at Srimad Bhagavatam, for instance, there's the churning of that milky ocean. Samudra Mathanam takes place. What comes out first from that Samudra Mathanam? Vasuki the snake comes out, the poison comes out first. They could have stopped at that point and said, ooh, this is tough right here. We don't want to deal with this poison. That's the first thing that comes out. Then, before Lakshmi Devi even, we can't go there directly, some goodies come out, don't they? Airavata comes out, the elephant, the Vriksha comes out, all of these goodies come out. Then Dhanvantari Bhagavan comes out, all of these things. That wasn't their final goal, but still these things come out, and they enjoy them. They partake in it, and they enjoy it. Before the Amrita comes out for real. Like that in my own sadhana process, as I start inquiring into this mind, seeing it for what it is, as I go and look at my tendencies, as I go and look at the aspects that make up my thinking, what is the first thing that comes out? Poison! It's a reality. If I'm really to look into this mind, objectively, all I see will be poison first. Then, over time, steeped in these sadhana practices, repeatedly, again and again, abiding in it, some goodies come out then. Now, for someone who is an austere sadhaka, doing large vratas, and chanting kavachams, and doing all of these processes, some of those goodies may be a tinge of clairvoyance, able to see into the future. There may be some siddhi of looking at someone, understanding what their mindset is before they even say a word. These siddhis may be there, but is that the focus of the sadhana? They may come. That's not the focus though. For instance, if there's an athlete training for a 10K or a full marathon or something, they're training so that they can finish that race is what they're training for. Now imagine this is a single person, someone in college then, for instance, right? They're training for that, that's their final goal, to finish that marathon. Along the way, their body gets sharper, more cut and everything. So, when they're out and about, some people look and say, oh, wow, that's a good-looking person right there. Is that the goal of what they're doing it for? Could be. But the real goal is to finish that marathon. These are just side benefits that pop up then. People complimenting and saying, wow, you look in great shape. It's not the purpose, something that comes up. Similarly, that was a weird example. Similarly, in this quest to know the truth of what my true identity is, side benefits may be these other siddhis arise, but I can't get taken away by that. That's not the real purpose. The purpose is to know what the true nature is. So siddhis may be there. That's still in the realm of Maya, though. Knowing how to handle Maya a little bit better is not the end goal that we have. Now the age-old question, the perfect question that comes up next is, how long do I have to do this vichara? Because the moment any sadhana or course of process is given, our first question is, how long do we have to do it? You ever been on an antibiotic cycle? The biggest thing every doctor tells me is, finish the regimen. After, if it's like an 8-day regimen of antibiotics, after the 3rd day you'll start feeling better. That fever will break, the cold and cough will subside, and many people think that, oh, with the antibiotics it causes drowsiness and upset stomach and all of this, let me stop the regimen right now. They stop it within a few days, they're sicker than they were before. The way the medicine works is perniciously going in, attacking all of what's bad in the body. They say finish that course. Even if you think you're getting better, still go through it. Now when it comes to vichara, at a certain point I can say the mind is balanced to a certain extent. I feel happier, I feel lighter, without the burden of all these anxieties. I don't have to do vichara anymore. Because my vyavaharic life, transactional life that I live, seems pretty smooth and steady. Why keep delving into vichara again and again? Why do this inquiry? It's answered now in the 38th shloka. Soham vicharo vapuratma bhave. Soham vicharo vapuratma bhave. Sahayakari paramadganasya. Sahayakari paramadganasya. Svatmaikya siddhau sapunar nirarthaha. Svatmaikya siddhau sapunar nirarthaha. Yatha naratva pramitir narasya. Yatha naratva pramitir narasya. As long as I keep contemplating that I am, meaning that Mahavakya we saw, Tattvam Asi, inquiring into it again and again, until I own up that knowledge, I have to keep doing this vichara. Now, how do I know if I have this knowledge? Because again, going back to the story of those 10 boys, thinking one of them had drowned, there's 2 layers that are there. One is paroksha jnana, one is aparoksha jnana. In the situation we saw, paroksha jnana was, there is that 10th one, he exists. He's not dead, there is that 10th person. What benefit did that thinking have? Stopped them from crying at least, didn't it? Knowing that the 10th person was alive, at least the tears stopped. That wasn't enough though. Next layer had to be aparoksha jnana, direct knowledge, that I am that 10th person. Only then was that process complete. In the same way then, if I see that there is this Brahman, it's wonderful, it is that substratum, that is one layer. Next layer has to be, that is my identity. Or else what happens? I can intellectually appreciate what that is. Say that I worship that Bhagavan, I know what the representation is, I know what this truth is. Unless I own it up as myself, there is no cessation of the sorrow. That direct knowledge has to happen. Now, how do I know it's actually happened then? The big problem that I have is that adhyasa, superimposition. I'm falsely putting what I think is real onto what is actually real. The thisness is there, the isness is there, thinking that I have this Hari Chaitanya, that's the mistake that I'm making. Not understanding what this is, actually. So until that superimposition persists, that my idea of I is this body, this assemblage, I need to inquire. Next question then is, how do I know I still think I'm this body? What kind of desires do I have? Not which ones do I act upon, which desires do I have? Are they for my own selfish benefit? Are they subsiding over time? Do I still feel this jealousy, anger, hatred so viscerally as I did before? Has that subsided also? Is my mind more calm? These are all markers to see what is my progress on this path. And I'll know at a certain point when that superimposition is lifted. Again, another one is, a question came today when we were having an informal setting, that how do I stop comparing myself to others? The answer lies here again. Where do I see my identity as dependent on something else? Or is it independently joyful, not relative to others? I met someone once who their claim to fame was, my son won the lottery, is what it is. Their son won the lottery. So everywhere, everyone knows now. If you go around, my son won the lottery. I'm this person, my son won the lottery, like that. That's one example of it. That some accomplishment is there, and therefore they want to talk about it. Not even accomplishment, someone else's good luck. I own that up as that's my thing. That's one level. Another level is even funnier. In our mission centers, and I'll say this openly, some of our most dedicated sevaks are the ladies. The men do great seva, no doubt. But the ones that really put in the time, effort, really work with everyone, the ladies are the ones. It's no different anywhere else, really, either. So when the husbands do come to the mission, no one knows who they are. Their wives are, superstars doing great seva, and everyone knows them, they're beloved, everyone's favorite teacher, all of this. The husband, no one knows. So they'll come in, and they'll say, I'm Vivek. And we'll say, okay, Vivek, okay, cool. And he says, no, I'm Usha's husband. And we'll say, oh, that's you, okay, come on in, cool. Then you're part of us now, we like you then. So like that, their entire identity becomes Ushapati. UP is his real name then, that Vivek no one cares about. In relation to someone else, their identity means something at that point. Now, in a mission setting, because I'm married to someone, that's one thing. My entire existence, can it be dependent on someone else though? How much of a pathetic existence is that? So that's one other marker to test for this knowledge. That how dependent am I on some other thing as my identity? When have I let go of that pole? In the pole walking example yesterday, when have I let go of that pole? What am I still holding on to as a label? That's one marker. Now, we've already addressed this here, but one question that comes up is reality now the nature of duality, non-duality, or both? Now, this one shloka, I'll skip and go to the next one. For the purpose that, with half an hour left, if we go into this one shloka right here, it'll last us forever. There's a lot to go in there, and I've put breadcrumbs there for each one of these. So we'll chant it quickly, but I'm not going to go too much in depth on it. Let's see this 39th shloka. Dvaitam vichare paramartha bodhe Dvaitam vichare paramartha bodhe Advaitamityeshana sadhuvadaha Advaitamityeshana sadhuvadaha Gaveshanat pradashame vinashte Gaveshanat pradashame vinashte Paschachalabdhe dashamattvamekam Paschachalabdhe dashamattvamekam. Funny thing is, if we look in Guruji's commentary, those of you that have it, on that 95th page, the last paragraph, it's the story of that 10th man that's here. Guruji included at this point in the commentary. What I wanted to do was, for these last set of shlokas, make that connection to all the remaining shlokas here. That's all I did. Stage in our sadhana, going through Bhagavad Gita as presented by Gurudev, eventually going through these texts as presented by Bhagavan Shri Adi Shankaracharya Ji is an amazing first step. If we don't embark on this journey because we're worried which sampradaya should we go, funny point for it to come at the 40th shloka now, right? It's like listening to the entire Ramayana and then saying, that Rama and that Sita, what was their relationship again? Apparently it so happened. In Mahabharata, this comes at the end. Arjuna was inspired to finally fight and do his duty because of Bhagavan's Upadesha, Bhagavad Gita, right before the war started. Turns out decades later, him and Bhagavan were just relaxing, and he said to him, Bhagavan, remember that time before the war where I was like crying, I wasn't feeling happy, I didn't want to fight, and then you talked to me and you inspired me. You said some really good things that day, but I forgot what you said. What did you say again? Can you tell me again? This really happened. Any other guru has smacked the student right there. That's the highest knowledge. What do you mean you forgot? Bhagavan does one more elucidation of Gita at that point. It's not highly commented upon, but in a nutshell, he gives them the knowledge again there in Mahabharata. It is given. So like that here, at the 40th shloka, the last day, question comes up again, what exactly is liberation? Now, Bhagavan looks at it through a very interesting way. He says, I won't tell you what liberation is, but what it's not definitely is that I do work. Saying that statement, I work, I am that doer, aham karta, that's definitely not liberation. Now, in what ways do we see that? There are three types of karma that we can describe. Sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, agami karma. I'm sure Venkatesh has gone through this with you in Tattva Bodha, those of you that have been in it. Sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, agami karma. Imagine the following analogy. There is a person with a bow and arrow, and he's aiming it and shooting arrows at something or someone. Okay? He has a quiver full of arrows on his back. He pulls one arrow out, puts it on the bow, pulls it back, and then releases. That's what the process is. Sanchita karma is like that quiver full of arrows. Those karmas I've done in the past, those karma phalas have not beared fruit yet. It's like a storage house of karmas. Their results still have to come to me. As he puts the arrow on his bow and pulls it back, at this position right here, where the arrow is pulled back, he has a choice. Where does he aim it? If he's a hunter and that animal is moving, he can move like this before releasing. At this point, it is agami karma, where there's potential in that action, and there's decision-making capability there. If you're aiming at somewhere and you say, oh wait, that's not the animal I want, boom, you turn it this way, agami karma. You're at the crossroads of choosing what action is done. Once you release that arrow, can you say, oops, wrong target, bring it back? Nothing like that. Once you release it, it's gone. It's going to hit that target no matter what. That is prarabdha karma. Meaning, when that karma bears fruit as prarabdha, it has to fructify in this very janma. Which is why even after liberation, once the person knows this knowledge, prarabdha karma still comes to them. That sanchita karma, storehouse of karmas that have not produced results, completely burned away. Because what individuality do they have to connect with you? So they burn away. That agami karma, from this point onwards, any new action that's done is not egocentric. Therefore, what prarabdha will come of them, that's also meaningless. That prarabdha karma still remains there. Which is a beautiful concept if you look at it. An elementary concept we see in other religions, for instance, is the moment you surrender as a true believer to this entity, all your sins are washed away, there's nothing that can come to you after that. This makes far more logical sense than that. That if things were done before the advent of this realization, those results verily have to come to me as long as this body persists. So after this basic question comes one more interesting question. Listening to all of this, we keep saying true nature, true nature. That means that that nature was there the entire time, only that veil of ignorance was there. Meaning now, was I ever bound, needing to be liberated, or was I liberated this whole time? Isn't that a logical question that comes up? Bhagavan answers it in the next shloka, 41st shloka. Baddhatva bhave sati moksha chinta. Baddhatva bhave sati moksha chinta. Bandhastu kasyeti vicharanena. Bandhastu kasyeti vicharanena. Siddhe swayam svatmani nitya mukti. Siddhe swayam svatmani nitya mukti. Kva bandha chinta, kva cha moksha chinta. Kva bandha chinta, kva cha moksha chinta. Think of bondage in those physical terms. Hanumanji, when he was in Lanka, he was bound by those ropes, right? He killed Akshay Kumar and he was bound by those ropes then. That's bondage. Here we say bondage on that personality or I'm bound to be this jiva. Now we do this inquiry into Saddarśana. What is it that's my true nature? I find that this entire time, it wasn't that I was bound by something like that as a real entity. I just thought I was bound due to ignorance. It's the funniest thing when kids are swimming in the water. They don't know how deep the water is. So they start splashing around. I think I'm going to drown. They start moving around. And an adult tells them, just stand up. Just stand up. And they still, no, I can't. Then they tell them, just stand up. They do. The water's only waist deep like that. So were they ever in danger? No. They thought they were. So it's not like they were in danger and then came out of danger. They were never in danger. Similarly, it's not that I was bound and then I get liberated. I was never actually bound in the first place. I'm just understanding what my true nature is. Another example, if there's someone who's an orphan, never knew who their parents were. Later in life, they meet the parents finally and they say, you are my parents. Were they parentless this entire time? They didn't know who the parents were. Once they recognized that, then, but they were parented the entire time. They had their parents the whole time. They were never an orphan. So like that here, if there is no bondage, is there any liberation? No. If there is no liberation, is there really a sadhaka, meaning a seeker who is on this quest for liberation? If there is no seeker seeking this liberation, is there any jagat to even express these vasanas out there? That's the logic we ultimately come to. All roads lead to Sat. That existence principle, this is the way it's done then. Finally, at that culmination where words like bondage, liberation, seeker, creation, all of these are for my benefit to understand how to get out of it. We understand all those words all the way at the end. Now, even though they fall away at the end, are all those words necessary to understand on this path? Definitely, 100%. This is what's called adhyaropa abhavada. Adhyaropa is that intentional placing of the superimposition by Shastra, calling me a jiva, saying there is jagat, saying there is Ishvara. All of this is intentionally placed only to be undone. A vehicle to undo all of this, apavada, is that final truth that I come to. That's a process we find in our Shastra. That's what's given here. Now the final shloka we look at for our analysis, this is on the various views on liberation. Final concept we look at, shloka number 42. Rupinya rupinya bhuya bhayatmika cha Rupinya rupinya bhayatmika cha Muktis trirupe divido vadanti Muktis trirupe divido vadanti Idam trayam ya vivinatya handhihi Idam trayam ya vivinatya handhihi Tasya pranasha paramartha muktihi Tasya pranasha paramartha muktihi. When it comes to what this mukti is, we understand it as its realization, end of all sorrows, end of all egocentric desires, resulting in no new birth. This whole game of that ends right away. No more birth after this. Now, with that process ending, though, there are two views on this liberation that are valid. They are Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti is while this body is persisting, the person is liberated. Why is this significant? Seeing and experiencing this duality, which does not cease upon realization, I still see it as unreal. Meaning, while I'm alive, I'm liberated. That's quite exciting to see. Videha mukti is that once this body drops, it does not come back. That's that mukti. So the question is, when this knowledge is understood by me, aparoksha jnana taking place, where directly I understand, I am that. At that point, what happens? Jivan mukti or videha mukti at that point? Videha mukti is achieved at that point. At that point, it is guaranteed, once this body drops, I am not coming back. Therefore, at that point, when that knowledge comes, videha mukti is taking place. Jivan mukti, however, is what? Even while living, taking away those traces of duality that are still there, that's that jivan mukti. That takes time for it to come still. Because as long as I'm in this duality like this, the vestige, even after that knowledge I understand as me, the vestige of that duality still persists. Therefore, jivan mukti comes after that videha mukti. The final beatitude, that final liberation, videha mukti happens when the body drops. But when does that come into play is at the point that the knowledge comes. Do we understand that? Now, this seems like, oh, that's so far off, Hariji, why does it matter? Meaning that even after liberation, it's not that this transactional world completely changes. Again, not like the Matrix where I see everything in binary code. That's not how this promise is. The world will persist as it is. My annoying neighbor will still be annoying even after I'm realized. It will be that way. That bad coffee that's made for me every day that tastes bad, it will still taste bad after realization. This is not like being in love where colors are brighter and tastes are better. That's not what this is. Okay? This is not some endorphin high. That's not what's promised. Liberation is completely different. So with that, we'll look at these last two shlokas, and then we'll conclude. 43rd shloka. Saddarśanam dravidavang nibaddham Saddarśanam dravidavang nibaddham Maharshina Shri Ramanena Shuddham Maharshina Shri Ramanena Shuddham Prabandhamutkrishtam amartyavanyam Prabandhamutkrishtam amartyavanyam Anudyavasishtamunirvyatanit Anudyavasishtamunirvyatanit. So this original Saddarśanam was written in the Tamil language by Sri Ramana Maharshi. He wrote it there originally. And the beauty here is, there are many texts that are written in Sanskritam, then translated to regional languages. Very few texts we come across written in a regional language, then translated to Sanskritam. This is one of those. Another famous one is Saddarśana. Originally written in not Hindi, not Avadhi. It's like a mix between the two, Hindi and Avadhi. What was there then? Written in that Bhasha, then translated to Sanskritam. Saddarśana means the ocean of inquiry. Sagara means ocean. In that theme, each chapter is called Tarangini, wave. It's a beautiful text on the entire Advaita Vedanta. So, the beauty of this text is every single shloka leads me back to that sat. What is the culmination of the inquiry? Meaning, when I approach that seat of meditation, the thought is, what do I think about? These shlokas, each of them, can be used as an aid to that meditation. Because we clearly saw that one stream of thought is what is to be cultivated. That stream of thought doesn't come randomly. Each shloka is a stream of thought in itself. So focusing on the words of the shloka, what that message is, and then applying it to myself and thinking, going deeper, whether it's the 5 sheets, whether it's this grammatical argument of because I exist, therefore there's you and them and they and this and that and those. That kind of an argument. Going through what the effects of karma are, how they're not there for the jnani. Owning up this knowledge means going through what's already given, that constant stream of thought. That's that true meditation. And then we finally conclude now with that last 44th shloka. Sattattva saram saralam dadhana, sattattva saram saralam dadhana, mumukshu lokaya mudam dadana, mumukshu lokaya mudam dadana, amanusha shri ramaniya vani, amanusha shri ramaniya vani, Mayukha bhittir munibag vibhati, Mayukha bhittir munibag vibhati. That these words give rise to that liberation. Not just chanting these words, but actually inquiring and going deeper into them. They are on that journey to that liberation. These divine words that are given. Now, we talk about joy often. Joy is not just that final culmination that we come to. Is this entire inquiry process joyful for me? If it's not, that means there's something wrong. Because this is talking about my glory. Whenever someone praises us, we get carried away by it, right? Someone says, hey, nice kurta or nice sari. We get carried away. They're talking about the clothing, not even about me. They're not even saying you look good in that sari. Just nice sari. I still get carried away by it. Isn't that the case? What is the best compliment someone can ever give me? Contained in the Shastra. Saying that jiva you think you are, that takes so many compliments, that's not even you. You are something beyond comprehension. They talk about, what is it? Whenever we wake up from a dream, we don't remember what's there. But there's that one phrase, Shairnakwa, that how does a poet describe a dream? When they remember the words they can use to describe things at a different level. This is not even that kind of praise. Even higher than that, that which tells me I am infinite, not just that I'm great at this finite level. That which tells me not that I have that spark of intelligence, I am that very intelligence principle. That which tells me things don't exist in me, I am that very existence. What greater praise is there than that? That's why the joy that comes from this inquiry is my true identity is given, an identity more exalted than anything I could ever imagine. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to reflect on this awesome text with all of you. It was wonderful to meet this community, such a close-knit community, one that really looks out for each other, and I'm blessed to be a part of it here. And Anahoga Pyuryahami Kahi Kahima, my last message then. And I'm really glad I met all of you. With that, let's do our closing prayer, and then our opening collection has some announcements for us. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha